Ooh, I'm live. This is interesting. All right, let me see this really quick. I should get a little mirror next to the before the camera goes live because on YouTube when you're doing live, you don't see yourself until you go live, which is weird, right? But I guess I could take a selfie, right? Hey, this is drmike.org, and let's just get right into it. I'm in New York City. This was, well, I'm somewhat sort of like a guest house stay right now in the Upper West Side of New York. 22nd of February. We are live, and we're going to be live in about 45 minutes with Ellen Finkelstein, who's going to be an amazing interview and going to give a talk about how she does it. She makes money online. She's kind of like the email queen, you could say. She doesn't mind me saying that, which is true. That's her. That's part of her reputation. She has an amazing newsletter that really thousands of people actually read, and it's got everything. It's very dense, condensed, and got everything you need. So check that out at mondays.org. We go live every Monday morning, 9 o'clock Eastern Time where I am, and 6 a.m. for you or West Coasters. Tell your friends, mondays.org and mondayslive.com. So in my other life, like to think of myself as a social philosopher and looking to get published. Part of the reason why I'm in New York, hopefully to hobnob and run into some people in the publishing world. So what I do, and this is what I want to talk about today, and we'll make it really brief because I got to get ready for Ellen. I'm going to change into some kind of jacket, not a tie, but something representable of Monday morning business. I look for what is, you could say, I'm reading my own notes. I'm going like, well, I can't even read my word. And this is sort of what I look for in my experiences. And this is, if you're a social scientist, you're looking at structures of experience. And so I'm having an experience being in New York. And of course, it's filtered through who I am and what's represented and how I identify as, personality wise and conception, I call it the MVP, things that find myself, and sort of, this is interesting. So things that are meaningful, there's value to them. And for me, it's purpose, but also I find it, it's attractive. So it's passion. I won't be saying the emails that much. I gotta catch myself. This is where the awareness factor comes in, and like how we are showing up. So what I look for is really, even in mundane moments, which is sort of the everyday, what stands out, what can be exceptional in the way that we can relate to each other. The sense, what I describe as ultra beingness. So there is being, and that's fine. What is the quality of the being? And having what we just talk about in this work as I awareness, which was actually Dr. David Jubb's uh, concept. And I just think I awareness, I just think about eyewear. It's like, how can we be a bit more eyewear of what? Well, how we're being. So in this ultra beingness, it's not so much a constant contemplation or data mining, like how am I ultra being? It's simply a letting go, as Guy Finley would say. And there's in this realm more, if you're gonna have anything, there's an appreciation because things open up for you in the dimension of being able to perceive. And in this context of being a social scientist, we're talking about observing life in the way, whether it would be like me being in New York and this, I'm in Manhattan, I'm on the Upper West Side, I'm on the Morningside, and I'll go to the park later. It's supposed to be in the 50s by next day or so, and then I fly back. So it's like, wow, what a trip I'm having. So my experience in the experience is part of this exploration. So I find it enlightening because there's this passion element that I'm having a really great experience, a really great time. And hopefully you are too. So in understanding this, we have sort of something of a construct, whether it's an identity, so ID, internal dialogue, as I'm aware of anything I'm saying to myself about myself. This is a little bit more of I awareness. If I'm going to have a thought, at least be conscious of what it is. That this is a choice of a thought you're having rather than the thought owning you. Who gave you the thought and the programming of it and your adaptation or adoption. These are things that can be talked about. And these are good topics to consider, particularly in my writing for masstrance.com. Mass trance is the hypnosis of society, and it's definitely here. It's all around you, and we're in it. I'm in the mass trance, right? I'm trying to wake up. Now, again, as a social scientist observing, I've labeled this, but there's something about this as a sociological construct. Masstrance.com, not mass transit, but mass, M-E-S-S, trance, Trance.com. Now, before you freak out about that, there is the element of who's in the mass trance and studying this kind of persona effect that's projected identity, which I describe as IGO. So it's the IGO research.com. So igoresearch.com is my book pitch. So IGO is, again, the selfie of the mind. And so it's projected personality is sort of a lens that we're presenting ourselves through. Now, who's the presenter? In this realm of consciousness, if it's other than I were, I call it the morb, MORB. And the morbid structure is something that's really the modus operandi of rational behavior, which functions in society and does what it does and lives its ordinary everyday life, and that's fine. It's getting through things, and some people are living morbidly well. So MORB, the modus operandi that operates us, right, and functioning in the way that relational being or rational, so we have to behave in the way that's perceived rational and what makes the most sense to get along in society and to function in whatever role or capacity, job. And so if there's any hindrances, this programming or scheme has come up and it's usually projected in this I go in my mind, and I go see myself in my mind. This is an action, so why not study this? And it's amazing, at least in all the reading and writing I've been studying and looking for, this has not been I haven't found it yet. If you've got stuff to refer me to, there's a lot of stuff that helps inform it, particularly people who think it's all in the head, which you say, well, is it not? Well, that's what the whole structure of a quantum consciousness is talking about. Like, what is informing this? And is there something that's operating this? You could say, in the neurobiology aspect of, is there not something running things? Whether you think about the heterotomy, like who's running the universe, the whole structure of cosmology and the inputs of power structures here on Earth, and whether it's habituated thinking patterns and how we talk and the certain temporality of our state and time. These are all things I explore in the mass trance. So what are all the factors outside of just our conditioning, which is really a big part of it, if nothing more than just the conduit from which our society and our ability to relate to each other exists. So I like to also study community conversations because that also reflects a certain level of consciousness. And that can happen online. It can happen sort of in a feed, I'm talking about news, and whether it's conspiracy theory, fake news, to something that's sort of like, oh my God, aren't you getting a sense that we're all being played? Well, that's another aspect of my writing called dashism. So to me right now, we're close, but we're not quite there at fascism, the F word replaced with the D, letter over F, dashism, German related to das Schism, creating the divide, polarity, and how the mechanisms, the mental mechanism really creates dashism. It's a dementia of some sort, really, of a dimension in which people can believe BS, and this is where we're at. So you might check that writing out. So I'm hoping to find an agent as part of my hope that up in New York, I'm going to hobnob and run into some people and say, hey, you're that social scientist, drmike.org. Can I talk to you, please? Yes. Beam me up, Scotty. What's he talking about? Well, hopefully this is something that you'd find interesting too. You can check out grandtourideas.com for some philosophical uptakes on understanding sort of dimension. And so if we're looking at, this is why I wanted to record this actually, to look at this both mundane and exceptional. I still don't see what that one word is. It looks like an MES, and then it's not message, but it doesn't make sense. But anyway, it is something about an emergence. So looking at the E as being enlightened, that's sort of my symbol if you see the E. So UBE3, ultra being, excellent example of enlightenment, would be some sort of an emergence of sort of something that's allowing you to be ultra being this experience. So that means you're not so distracted, you're not missing what someone's saying, you're not lost in some conjecture or mood swing or some kind of off cycle, you're just simply present. And you can observe these things, and just simply through, you could say, in theory, ultra being theory of ultra being present, ultra being loving, there's naturally an upliftment. So there's a correspondence in the way of your rapport and your ability to relate into the space, which calls the MEST. MEST is matter, energy, space, and time. That's all there is. And here we are. It is sort of in this way of thinking or imagining a conduit. So this is a fabric of life. What's the matter? The energy or emotional level, space, conduit, sense that informs the quality of our time. So in a psychological or psychic dimensions, if you look at just the physics of the physical reality, there's I experiencing whatever this dimension is of life. And if there is a quantum consciousness, then how do we tap into it and explore it so we are, as close as we can be, living enlightenment? And so UBE3 is simply this modeling, if we're going to have a goal of enlightenment. So UBE3 simply is ultra being, in the way that you explore it and understand it, being in flow, ultra being your best in state, maybe having this moment and some momentum with it, whatever it is, you get to define it. Otherwise, it's tainted if I say it for you, because how do I know? It's your experience. So this is what it is. UBE3, ultra being, an excellent example of enlightenment. Really simple, right? Ultra being. So UBE3 is very similar to Gandhi's dictum. You want to change the world? You be the change. You be this representative or emissary of this work, which is self-liberation, getting out of our stuck stories and being a bit more present. And that sort of awakens us, clears the space so we can see through the mass trance. The fog is lifted, particularly in the mental apparatus. So whether these are prions, which I write about, things that pryon you, PRYONS.com, psychic entities, or, we're going to do versus what would be wise, something that would sort of be other than that, draining, energy vampiric. Well, we want to get out of that dis, because if you have dis over ease, it's not good. So we want things that are more easy and more enlightening. So you have to be representative of this change, UBE3. Ultra being, an excellent example of enlightenment, and the E3 is sort of a bit like Einstein's E equals MC squared, right? So how do we contrast this in the way that we show up in the dimension that we're experiencing this? And that's what I'm proposing as a CARES model. I love acronyms because they're easy, formulaic, and you can remember them. So CARES, C-A-R-E-S, is the community action research. So we are social scientists, community action research of engagement. And I smiled at that point because if I'm in New York City and I live in a building, I'm in an efficiency unit. I'm really happy and lucky to be here, very blessed. But people just go in and out, slamming the door. They seem to be other than consciously aware because they have earplugs on. They're just not thinking, lost in their thoughts, and the door slams behind them because there is no dampener, So I've talked to a few residents, and those that are receptive, they go, "Oh, yeah, for sure." And you could tell there's some conscious awareness, but I haven't gotten everybody. It's a big building, so. And you say, who's this outsider from New York coming in telling us how to live our life? Well, I think from what I'm experiencing, believe it or not, in this quantum leap dimension, this explains why we're in the world we're in right now and who's president and all that. Because you have one dimension that claims to have some enlightenment, as we all sort of think we do. And in the way that we're living it, we other than might be consciously aware of our effects, whether it's in the environment, climate, and we're looking at climate change. We also look at more of an intimate dimension. I write about this in Weltslosh. The German words of understanding the world that we've built, Welt, world, and Schloss, or sloshing around. This is sort of a constructed reality, right? And also in the way that we relate to it, say, well, we've done this, we've built this, and so if we're going to reckon anything, how can we take it apart elegantly so we can better understand it? So weltslosh.com, but there's a link through grandtourideas.com and writing about these concepts. To me, they're fascinating. I'm so fortunate and blessed that I have opportunity to work on them. But of course, I'm also in the mass trance and the construct thinking, well, how am I going to make a living off of this? I only have so much more savings of resources, just, transverse around the universe, which I don't do that often anymore. Back in the seminar promotion days, I would be in a different city every other month promoting the seminar and having that experience. But that was a life a long time ago. Although I've lived in different cities and had the amazing experience of being a dad to two amazing daughters, I'm at that stage of life right now going, well, what's next? And maybe you are too. So I'd love to create a community, and this would be a conscious community in our conversation, leading a self-liberation movement and talking about ultra being as a concept that we explore as social scientists because we're in this CARES model. We're all living it. So now in this realm, it becomes fantastic or fantasy in the way that, yes, I need to be responsible as a human being and with my family or my friends, obligations, whether at work or my word given to things that I'm going to do and things that just are part of what we have to, in our existence of day-to-day reality, take care of, bills to, wiping the butt in the morning, just basic function stuff, So if we can be a little bit more attuned to just living it and in the structure of our experience have this emergence. So it's a bit of a contrast, right, to examine and go into, let's say, the cosmic pool of these ideas to experience conceptually in the Gedanken, a thought experiment, Gedanken thought. So I'm imagining what enlightenment would be like in this regard. And so is it the quantum? Is it, consciousness that is really a superstructure that now that I'm tapped into a bit more and there's less regard of the disassociation and the things that hold us back, going to allow for freedom in this regard, self-liberation. Well, these are, or again, as an ontology or a social philosopher, well, these are deep questions. And yet I want to emerge. I want to come into this enlightened pool in the way that you show up or what's represented, people kind of get it on a vibratory, whatever, just sort of, if they can get you and they're attuned to something, they really appreciate you. You're a great company, and you're something that they get as a gift just because you're giving company without having to say much at all, right? I'm not here to lecture, although I am talking about concepts because you're interested, but I don't have any desire to make anybody wrong or sort of manipulate or use something to some advantage. There might be an experiment because you're a social scientist, the Gendanken, sort of thinking of things and imagining things, but you get permission and you engage the person in such a way that they're comfortable and they get it. There's ease, right? This is the REC formula I talk about in Mike'sMastermind.com. REC formula, how we can reckon things in the way that we can elegantly deconstruct and rebuild, perhaps, or just experience the quantum, whatever this would be. This is what we're exploring. All right. Well, enough. So if that's of interest to you, again, I'm drmike.org. Enough for now. I have to get ready for my Monday show. Mondays.org, live every Monday morning, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Mondays.org. I'm drmike.org. I hope you enjoyed today's talk. And I'm going to end the live stream. Catch you later in about a half an hour.